Hey everybody, welcome back. So we are on part 2 of creating this December Memories, kind of a daily December mini album project. Part 1 where we cut all of the base pieces that we need for the album. When I say base pieces, I'm talking about the basic pages and pockets and the covers and the wrap for this. The pattern paper I don't get into cutting, but I do include all of the cutting sizes for cardstock, for pattern paper, for chipboard, for everything you need to create this album in the supplies list, supplies and cut list that will be linked to this video description. So I'm going to walk you through how we assemble the base album. So I'm going to put, this is my sample, I'm just going to put this aside for now. So to start with, we're going to work on assembling the album basics. So I have my 2 spine pieces, my 2 front cover pieces, and my back cover piece. And if you remember, I marked kind of the direction I want to have this album back cover in with a pencil when I was cutting it. So we're going to start with these pieces. I'm going to add my score tape on the back of them all. Okay, what I usually do, I go over my score tape with a bone folder just to make sure that it's firmly adhered to my chipboard. So I'm going to go over each of these. Set these aside. Now I'm going to need, what I'm going to need next is going to be 2 pieces of 12 by 12 medium weight cardstock. That's going to be my wrap. I use medium weight, I just find it wraps around a lot easier and it's a cleaner look to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a line of the score tape on one side and then join 2 pieces together. I know that there is out there, I've seen it in some stores, 24 by 12 inch cardstock, and that is always an option for you. So I need that. Go over this. And then I'm going to use my, I'm going to remove the backing. This little tool is great. It's perfect for, because with fingernails sometimes it doesn't want to remove the backings. I end up making a mess of things. So I'm going to use my board here as a guide. And then here, it's one piece to this. And then I'm gonna go over the seam. Whenever you join two pieces together and you're doing a mini album project, it really is best to make sure that this seam ends up on the back of your project. You don't want it showing on the front. So we're going to be working from left to right in adding the chipboard pieces to this. So it's a little tough to see because I have my black mat here. Normally I go 1 inch in and 1 inch down, but this is a larger album. So I'm still gonna go 1 inch down, but I'm gonna go 3/4 of an inch in. So I'm gonna use my ruler to help me make a line. And again, I'm trying to make sure that I am lined up on this. Again, it's even harder for me to sometimes see with this. So I'm gonna draw a line. Pencil, I'm gonna double check that I did not skew this. And then, so that helps me. And then I can use my ruler on the top to start my line. And some people do a line all the way across and or a score line. And then I'm just gonna start my line because I use a little adjuster. So if you can kind of see it with the light. So I've got a pencil mark 1 inch down and a pencil mark 3/4 of an inch in. So I'm going to start with one of the front pieces, the front cover pieces, and move the backing. And I start with using these lines, but then I've got then I use spacers in between what I'm doing. So I'll show you that. I found this nice kit on Amazon with spacers because you want to make sure you leave enough space between the sides and the front or the sides and the spine of your project. So just bring this over. So I'm going to use my lines I drew as my guide. And adhere this, and I'm going to go over it with my bone folder. Then I have this nice little spacer that I put in between. It gives me the right amount of gap that I want in between the pieces. You can alternately use some of your scrap chipboard to give you that right kind of, gap in between your pieces. But I use this little spacer kit. All right, and then I'm gonna go next to a spine piece. I hold this nice and tight against it. And up flush the top. There we go. Remove that. And see how it leaves a really good, nice gap that you want in between. Now I'm going to go to my back cover piece. Get some of my little scraps out of the way. Now remember I did a pencil arrow. So this is what I want to be up when I put this on. Okay. Next piece. All right, my second spine piece. And the last piece is my other front cover piece. All right, so there's my basics right here. I'll go over it with my bone folder. Now, I've got a lot of extra down here, but I want it to be 1 inch. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can draw a line, free cut with scissors. I tend to like to use, I have a little kind of X-Acto knife, so I'll use my ruler and my little mini X-Acto knife, and I'm going to line up my ruler, the edge, hold it down. Okay, just one part this way. And, all right, just get this, so we're going 1 inch away. All right, so I've cut my pieces. Now what I want to do is I need to cut away my corners. You can use a ruler, you can use this template set I got has this, which is nice because you want to give it a nice piece. You could a ruler to do it. I'm going to use my little template here. I'm just going to free cut this with my template. So I'm just cutting away my corners. You definitely don't want to go right up to the corner here. You want to give a little bit of a gap, which is why I like using this template. And you know, don't worry, we will be covering our seams, so if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. All right, like that. Turn this around, do these corners. And one more, and then we're going to wrap the back, and then we're going to start adding pages. Okay, clear out my scraps, put some things away, get them out of the way so I don't have them. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right. So this is the back side, and I do like to go over everything with the bone folder. So, oops, bumped everything. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to add score tape to the chipboard and to the outer edge of my wrap. Okay, again, going over the score tape with my bone folder. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way this way. So I'm going to start to kind of fold this in along the edge. Use my hands at first, but then what I like to do is go, I use the more blunt end of my bone folder and just kind of run it down the side. Give it a good crease. And I work the sides, the two sides first before the ends. So we're going to take the score tape off of here. And then work your way from the middle out. And as always, go over your score tape with bone folder. And I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna use this to start to kind of wrap it. And use my hands. Go. Okay, so we have the top and bottom. Now, before I'm going to do my sides, I want to take my bone folder and kind of curl in a little bit. Oops, extra piece. And I'm going to curl it in here. Just helps to make the corner nicer. So, again, using the bone folder, I've got to do it in this direction. I'm going to curl it in. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to pull it up. Go. Yes. And again, I like to go from the inside to the outer corners. And it just gives a really nice, clean, crisp corner to it. There's my basic covered album base. Then what I like to do is run my bone folder along these seams, just kind of start the creasing going. And then work your way up. So that starts to give me the nice creases here that I like. I'll flip it over. And then the last one. So that's the basic base of the album for this mini album. And I want to make sure my seam is, the raised end is facing this way. So I'm just going to put this aside. Oh, actually, I almost forgot something. First, before we start ending any pages, I want to add these gusset hiders. So I have, from that medium weight cardstock, I have 2 pieces that are 3 by 9. And I'm going to adhere those to it. So we're going to added to the gusset hider as well as to the album base. Okay, so covered the gussets. So again, I'm going to use my bone folder in the seams to help this fold up nicely and cleanly. So that's basically the basics of your gatefold. So now we're going to start adding the pages. Pages will not necessarily be added in the same order as when they're opened. So we're going to work our way through, but I will be telling you the page numbers, of course, as I'm going through them. So, of course, the first two pages being 1 and 2, we're going to put those aside slightly because we need to add 3 and 4 first. Make sure I've got 3 and 4 here. I wrote numbers on all of my pages when I cut them. Yep, got 3 and 4. So these pages are going to, each of them will fold out from here, and then 1 and 2 will fold in from here. So we're going to start by adhering these on the outer corners. So what I like to do, so I'm going to take and go on my score line for 3 and 4. And then I'm going to add my score tape to my fold. I like to angle my, oops, grab my scissors. I like to put the score tape on, then cut. That way I've got score tape out to the corners. I like to angle my corners when I do these pages. So I put the score tape on, then cut. That way it's out to the edge, and then it gives me a cleaner edge. So page 3 will go out like this, And page 4 will go out like that. So this will be when we get into some of the other pages. So let's take these and adhere these to the outside, and then we're going to add 1 and 2. So I'm going to adhere this to the edge. The outer edge of the front cover. And use my bone folder to go over that. That's page 3. And then page 4 over here. Okay, so 3 and 4. Now we're going to go back to page 1 and 2. Same kind of thing. Fold on the score line. And I'll add my score tape. And then trim my edges. Since 1 and 2 go from the inside to in, we're going to put them on this inner corner of 3 and 4. Now we're going to put this, it's about half, it should be about 1.5 inches away from either edge, as you're going to be centering it. So basically like that. So this will fold in, and then this is going to fold out. Same on the other side. Inch and a half from either side. So that's 3 and 4. Now we're going to go on to 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are basically just, what we cut for this is basically a seam cover for here. So we're just going to adhere those onto the inside of each of these. basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so like this. And now we're going to work on 7 and 8. These are both pieces that are 9.5 by 9. Let's make sure I've got the right pieces here. 8, yep, and 7. And these are scored on one side. Glad I wrote the numbers on the back of the pieces. Like I said, use numbers, or use, pencil with writing numbers on the back of the pieces, or use little sticky notes on them, whatever works best for you. Again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm gonna add the score tape, and then I'm gonna angle the corners. Okay, so for page 7, which is on your left-hand side, this is going to be adhered here pretty close to the seam on the spine. So like right there, pretty close to it. I'm just going to fold out this. The placement of 8 will be a little bit different. And the reason for this is because these nest when everything folds in together. If you have them at the same spot, it's not going to fold well. So I'm going to put this fairly lined up a little bit in, maybe 1/8 of an inch in from the edge of the spine. I just want to make sure it's laying flat. Yep, I'm going to go over this with my bone folder. So this will flip out like this. So basically when this all tucks in, this is going to be all in like this. So I'm just going to hold that out. And 8 is going to be, because of what we're having on this side, 8's going to be more towards the back of the spine. So I'm going to put this probably about a little over 1/2 inch, probably about 5/8 of an inch away from the back, the seam, the spine with the back. So just kind of a gap about my finger width from here. So what will happen when this folds in, this page will go in first, and then this page, and then we'll fold that up like this. So that's 7 and 8. So now what we're going to do, I just want to make sure. So I'm just going to show you on this. So we've done pages 1 and 2, then we have 3 and 4, 5 and 6. We have 7 here, and then we have 8 on this side. So now what we're doing is 9, 10, and 11. But what we need to do, 9 is actually part of the back side of page 14. So we're going to add here 14 and 17 first before adding 9, 11, and then 10. I hope that makes some sense. I hope you're following along. If not, if you ever have any questions, if you're trying this and you're not sure what you're doing, message me, please. I'd love to be able to help you. All right. Okay, so now we're doing page 14 and 17. We're adding those before we add 9 and 11. So I'm just folding on the score lines like I've done. Making sure this is correct. So these are going to fold out from the ends of 7 and 8. So this is going to be adhered to the outer left edge. Oops, just make sure that's all lined up. L7. So then this folds out like that. And we'll do the same on this side, on the outer edge of 8. I know it can get a little confusing, but I hope to provide you guys with diagrams and as much as I can on the cut list and supply list. So again, we're working from the outer edge of 8. Outer edge of 8. Okay, so now what we have is our basis for 9. Then we're going to have 10 here and 11 here. So, make sure that did not. So, what we're going to do is we have, so for 9 and 11, we're going to basically take these, and these are going to flip up. So what we have is we have a scored on one side. Okay, so we're going to, same thing for 9 and 11. Just kind of move some pieces out of my way. 11. Okay, so both of these are going to flip up. Almost forgot to clip the edges. I love these non-stick scissors. I've had them from ages, and they're so nice because you don't get the extra little pieces of adhesive. So this is going to adhere to the top of 9 and 11. Sorry, yes, of 14 and 17. So like this, and this will flip up. And same thing on this side. Trim these edges. And this will flip up from the top here. So these both flip up. Ten is going to be here, and 10 flips up from the center. Again, this is another 9 by 9.5, and with that scored at 1/2 inch. This is the top of the back cover. This folds down. So we have 9, 10, and 11. And now we're going to work on the inside of 14 and 18. 14. See, this is where I get the numbers wrong. So this is where 14 and 17. So we have one for this side. This is our folio pocket. Find my other piece, my little triangle that I saved. It's in here somewhere in this pile. Might have dropped it. I wouldn't be surprised if I find something on the floor, but what we've done with these is we have taken a 7x7 piece, scored it on two sides, and then we've cut away, and we've saved the cutaway piece because we're going to use that to make an additional pocket. That will not be adhered today. That's going to wait until we're decorating the album. So the first thing you're going to need to do is add your score tape, and then we're going to cut away a little bit of this folio pocket edges. And we'll do the same thing on both sides. So we're going to angle cut here. Now I want to cut away this bottom corner. So I'm angle cutting for both so that I have this little corner area. And we're going to adhere this. This gets a little long for my area. So what we're going to do is adhere this pocket to this bottom outer corner of this page. Like so. And when we decorate it, we'll be adding this piece to it, and then when we're all done, we're going to have an insert that'll go in the pocket. So that is one pocket, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So once we've added the folio pockets, now what we're going to want to do is we're going to add some seam covers on the inside of 15 and 18. And these seam covers are, like I've said, basically 9x9 pieces that we just used to cover some of the seams. I'm just going to grab 15 and 18 from my pile. Yep. So 15, these will be just here. So I'm just going to get my tape and add these. fold in like this. And then that will fold in. Do the same thing on the other side. Again, this folds in. This does this. So this is how we have our inside. So now that we've got this, I'm going to clean a little scrap. Sorry, people. All right, next step is going to be the inside of the back cover. So we have a few pieces for this. Make sure I've got, put aside, so I've got my pocket, my large pocket, and then I've got I'm just trying to figure out a few things here. Just want to make sure that I've got everything. Yep. Oh, I almost forgot. So I do want to do seam cover here. That's for 12. I should say, yeah, we went from, I skipped over 12 and 13. Those are basically two that are, again, they're meant to be seam covers here. So I'm going to add these. And I'm sorry for any confusion. So that's 12 and 13. And so after you, so to back up, after you would do 9, 10 and 11, then you're going to put the seam cover in for 12 and 13. And I'm sorry for the confusion with that. I have a pile of things and I missed one part. So now we're going to work on the back, inside of the back cover. So what we have for that, just making sure I've got all my pieces correct. All right, we have our pocket. We have 3 flaps for photos, and then we have our insert to cover. So we're going to first put the pocket in. So it's scored on 3 sides. Out. We're going to add our adhesive to the 3 sides, and then of course, like we did with the folio pockets and such, we're going to cut away the corners. And I thank you for, if you're staying with me on this, thank you so much for joining me for this. Like I've said, if you are trying this and having any questions, I am more than happy to help answer. Just shoot me a message anytime and I will try to help. Okay, so we are going to put this pocket along the bottom edge of the back cover. And the reason why I don't put a seam cover here first is because I want to cover over some of the the pocket seams as I do this. And that's why I also make the pocket a little bit thinner than the, okay, just gonna make sure I get this centered. And then I'm going to adhere it. So there's my pocket. Now I'm going to take my cover piece, adhere it, and I'm going to basically insert it inside the top part of the pocket. So that's going to cover that back seam, and it's also going to cover the tops. It just makes things, sliding things in and out of the pocket, a lot easier. I might run out of a roll of adhesive while I'm at this. And that's not unusual for me. I do have another roll of a thinner one, which should last me for the rest of this project, which is fine. Yep, I just did. So I'm just switching over to my 1/4 inch, and this is fine for these last pieces because they're not really super thick. I really prefer the 3/8 inch when I'm doing my covers and putting the pages on, but for some smaller flaps and these seam covers, I'm okay with going with a thinner width of the score tape. And it always happens. Something always happens while you're crafting. You run out of one thing or the other. Just get this adhered. So we're just going to slide this in here and make sure it covers the side seams of the pocket. I'm trying to hold it up a little bit as I'm sliding it in so that it doesn't automatically stick to the back. There we go. And I try to make sure it lines up at the top and covers that top seam where the 10 is attached. So basically like that. There's our pocket. Now the last piece is going to be these photo flaps. So let me just make sure I've got enough space. These are all 4.5 by 7.5 and scored at 1/2 inch on the 7.5 side. And what I try to do with these is I do the outer ones first, and then I try to so that I can space the middle one appropriately. So we're going to put score tape on the back of these flaps. Edges. Okay, so we're going to be centering these here. So first one I'm going to do is this one here. Let's just take this off. And so I'm going to center this along the pocket, and I'm going to put it about 1/4 of an inch in from the left side. So pocket, make sure it's straight. If you're not comfortable eyeballing it like I do, you can use a ruler. There's one. Now I'm going to put the last one in, which is going to be closer to this edge. And what I'm doing for this is I'm going to hold this tape like this for now, and I'm going to put this in. You can do it either way. You can line it up like this, where you hold it on the back so that it lines up like this. It's kind of an easy way to do it. So you want it to line up with the first pocket, then press it down, and then flip over the piece. So there's that piece. And then the last one, you're going to center in between those two. Just trying to make sure it's all nice and straight. And this is centered in between my two. And that's my last photo flap. So this basically flips out. And so your gussets here, you can decide if you want to cover this. In my other sample, I used some scraps and I just covered this seam. It's up to you. And same thing on this side. There's not so much of a seam here, but when you go forward, you know, this is pretty clean. So I think you're okay if you don't want to cover those. Corner rounding your edges of these flaps here is a nice thing. And then you've got your inserts, which basically are going to go in this large pocket in the back for one. Then it's going to go in our folio pocket here for 2, and then our other folio pocket here for 3. And then this all folds in. So your right side's going to fold in first, then your left side, and then your page, your front pages like this. And then this is basically what the album comes out looking like. I used a belly band to hold it closed, and what I did is I took some strips of the cardstock, and then I wrapped it around. Once I decorated it, I wrapped it around from the back, and then what I did is on the right hand strip I put some magnets underneath the pattern paper here, and on the left hand strip I added my Cricut cut tab, and I put the magnets underneath so that these magnets would then hold it closed. And that is basically how you create the base album for this December Memories mini album project. You know, thank you so much for, joining me for this, and I hope you get something out of it. And as I said, if you decide to create an album using this formula, I'd really love it. Share it with me, or at least share some information, because I really love to see how other people do with these kind of projects. Again, thank you so much for joining me and have a wonderful day.